on, we have an amazing panel discussion discussing the new age rules in the corporate world to fuel a new age economy post-COVID-19. Our first panelist would be Ms. Sarita Singh, CEO, Priyadarshini Group of Schools. Our next panelist would be Dr. Jaya Vaidyanathan, Chief Executive Officer, BCT Digital. Our next panelist would be Mr. Kalyan Sridhar, Managing Director, PTC India. Our next panelist would be Mr. Alok Biswas, Chief Executive Officer, Jana Kalyan Finance. Our next panelist would be Sabyasachi Goswami, CBO, Perfios Software. And moderating this session would be Mr. Abhimanyu Ghosh, Editor-in-Chief, WCRC International.
Organized together by two of India's topmost consulting and research companies, that's Whitepage International and iBrand 360, along with, of course, the famous Malcolm McDowell Academy, who is the process advisor and evaluator of all our processes. Welcome to this panel discussion today on new age strategies in the post-COVID era. Welcome all of you firstly. The need for speed has never been greater than today as companies adopt new ways of working at speed. Executives are also interested in moving to flatter, non-hierarchical structures, taking more radical approaches to decision-making and ways of working. Gone are the days of waiting around for best practices to emerge. CEOs today recognize the need to shift to adrenaline-based speed during COVID-19 to speed up design for the long run. The winners are experimenting now and boldly. When the coronavirus pandemic erupted, companies had to change. Many business as usual approaches of serving customers, working with suppliers, and collaborating with colleagues, or just getting anything done would have failed. They had to increase the speed of decision making while improving productivity, using technology and data in new ways, and accelerating the scope and scale of innovation. And it worked. Organizations in a wide range of sectors and geographies have accomplished difficult tasks today and achieved positive results in record time, redeploying talent, launching new business models, developing new products, shifting operations, and much, much more. And I think that's what winning companies really do. Our discussion today focuses on changes required to be adopted for smoother operations and leadership functions during this extremely tough times. We are going through an anxious period, but winning companies set benchmarking standards. Winning companies show the way. Our discussion today focuses on changes required to make this happen. Our eminent panelists today are Dr. Jaya Vaidyanathan. Welcome, Dr. Jaya Vaidyanathan. She's the CEO of BCT Digital, a global speaker, entrepreneur, thought leader, and an expert on financial services and technology. Jaya Vaidyanathan is the CEO of BCT Digital, a global technology company specializing in innovation in the predictive analytics and AI space with a focus on financial services. A portfolio of skills include driving product strategy in digital transformation space, product innovation, risk management, mergers and acquisitions, technology delivery, and execution. She's a multi-award winner, fintech innovator, entrepreneur, and thought leader. Jaya is a globally recognized speaker. Welcome, Jaya, to this panel discussion. Next, we have Mr. Kalyan Sridhar. Mr. Kalyan Sridhar is the Managing Director and Country Head of PTC India, a successful leader with proven track record of 20 years in senior executive roles spanning sales, business development, business operations, and channel sales in the IT industry. Kalyan joined PTC in 2015 and has put PTC India on a very aggressive growth trajectory buoyed by very strong portfolio as well as vibrant market for PTC in India. Prior to PTC, Kalyan was with IBM for 17 years and has done a variety of roles. A science graduate with post-graduation in business administration, Kalyan is an avid golfer and a cricket enthusiast as well. Welcome, Kalyan.
Thank you. Hello, everybody.
Yeah, hi. Next, we have, of course, Mr. Sabyasachi Goswami. Sabya is the Chief Business Officer of Perfio Software, an extremely fast-moving company today. He has 18 years of experience with proficiency in business development, sales strategy, operations, and sales and marketing activities. He has proven skills in breaking new avenues, driving revenue growth with optimal utilization of resources, and proactively conducting opportunity analysis to accomplish multifold revenue increases. Welcome, Sabya, to this panel discussion. Thank you very much for joining us. We have Dr. Sarita Singh, CEO of Priyadarshini Group of Schools. She has been recently featured in Forbes India as a self-made woman who defies the notion of barrier. Her opinion and ideas of education system and the toll of COVID on students have been well accepted. She has emphasized on the importance of mental and emotional well-being of students in these times. An entrepreneur, teacher, and a leader for excellence, Sarita Singh is the CEO of India's leading group of schools, Priyadarshini, which she has built with extreme passion, providing highest quality education. Welcome, Sarita, to this panel discussion. Last, we have Mr. Alok Biswas. Mr. Biswas has been the founder and CEO of various companies. Today, he is the founder and CEO of Janakalyan Finance. A pass out of Xavier Institute of Management, Bhubaneswar, Mr. Biswas is a new age entrepreneur in the microfinance and BFSI industry who started from very humble beginnings actually and made a huge mark for himself through hard work and dedication. As a leader of many top BFSI brands that excelled under him, Alok founded Janakalyan Finance, inspired by Grameen Bank of Bangladesh. Today, his brand is helping and empowering the needy and is on a highly sustainable business model. Welcome all of you to this panel discussion at the Ideas Fest. We will seek your opinion and your guidance to this industry. This telecast is broadcast to various sorts of people, from top corporates to student to government to bureaucrat. We would want opinions from you as thought leaders of today who are driving companies to excellence, their brands to excellence. Give a perspective on leadership, your brand, and the industry per se. I think we would start with Dr. Jaya Vaidyanathan. Jaya, if you could kindly give your opinion on the same. We can leadership, industry, and your brand, and we'll move one by one to everybody. Yeah.
Sure. Maybe I'll give you a quick snapshot view on what leadership means today. The world went in the flick of a second from being flat, right? The world is flat to being very siloed. And we don't know what the new normal, what shape the world is going to be. So that the dynamics of economies has changed substantially during this time, which means that there is more thrust for going local and then going global. So I think what it means for our industry per se is that we have shifted a lot of development locally, and that was one of the strongest things that kept us ahead in terms of both the growth and revenue curves in today's post-COVID times. About 7 years back, we decided that we would make products in India for India. And that was something that was more with the localization of the demands that fits our unique business needs, especially in the BFSI space. I'm sure Alok and others will talk about how in India, the need for microfinance and how the whole world needs to be looked differently. Let me probably pick an example and then walk you through all of that leadership, brand, and industry through that as an example. One of the things that we've been grappling with is the issue of, in the banking world, of raising NPAs. Post-COVID, that's just going to be more and more increasing rampantly. And the way the world views NPAs and the way India views NPAs is completely different. The reason is it comes from two factors. One is willingness to pay, second is ability to pay. The ability to pay is universal, and that is something that prevails across all geographies. So that's a commonality thread that we carry through. The willingness to pay is something that where there is a lot of cultural influence which comes from a localization of habits. So I think it is more to do with, do you take a global product and bring it to India, or do you keep it local, fitting with the unique cultural nuances of the situation itself? Answer to that was create your own space, which was an early warning system that we came up with, one of our pioneering software, which was to look at more in the presence of create locally, and the product fits in certain segments globally, launch it outside India. So complete paradigm shift in terms of being flat to localization, which we are seeing increasingly as the borders shut, people could not travel much. The emphasis on building locally, or Atmanirbhar Bharat as we call it, is something that is here to stay. Leadership styles are to do with fail fast, fail safe. It's not about, our vision for the next 10 years, what do you build? But it's more about hyper local and building it fast, building it safe. There is capital available in plenty if you know how to tap it. The bigger, houses have access to cheaper foreign funds. The local or the micro segments have governmental incentives. So there's plenty of capital. It's more about how do you keep innovating within your own framework, and then come up with new, products that fit this particular niche. Again, example, if a person is selling vegetables, right, today, is the person selling vegetables, or is he in the business of selling? So that is a paradigm shift that you'll have to really look at and do that. I think from a brand perspective, from an industry perspective, there's been a lot of untapped and white spaces that we are seeing post-COVID. Example would be a segment of quantification of losses. I sit on the board of multiple international companies, and one thing we've all been grappling with is the issue of how do you quantify and say this is the exact loss that you're going to see, and based on your industry exposure, how do you see whether it's going to be a J curve or a V curve, or what is going to be the magnitude of losses and how much can you stand by it? And that's a response to it, is a dynamic shift in terms of a new product. So leadership styles are distant, it's virtual. How do you keep people engaged during that? How do you keep attrition at the minimum? And how do you build on the social equity that you put in from the past to tap on in terms of influencing a larger audience to stay connected? I think that's to do with leadership. With brand is more about perseverance, trust and consistency, and your ability to deliver despite the crisis. And the industry, as you see, it's dynamically shifting, it's stress prone. So how do you respond quickly to major issues within the industry, and how quickly are you able to stay, and how quickly are you able to innovate and stay on top using emerging technologies, or maybe not? Technology is just an enabler. It's business first, technology next, and that's where I would rest it.
Okay, great. Mr. Sridhar, your viewpoint?
Yeah, and I think Jaya covered a lot of it. I mean, being innovative, staying on top. It's kind of interesting. A viewpoint. I come from a different industry. Which is primarily focused around manufacturing, and we offer solutions for manufacturing industry. Now, if you look at it, COVID-19 today has not only had an impact on the health of people at large, but also the economic damage that it has left and will continue to render may prove to be a lot more damaging than the pandemic itself. This is my humble opinion. The post-COVID era is going to be very interesting, as I firmly believe that any crisis can speed up development and help in bringing a lot of refocus into the task at hand. Now, over the past 6 to 7 months, ever since the pandemic struck, business leaders like Jaya talked about it, innovated and come out with new products. They've in the manufacturing industry, they've reorganized supply chains. They've made very tough financial decisions. I mean, I think it's something which you've seen organizations do day in, day out. Step up the infrastructure to work in the new normal, and a lot more. No, while we still talking about vaccines and all of that, I mean, we really don't have an end in sight, and not much seems to be different from where we started off 6-7 months back. And crisis typically, in my opinion, plays over three phases. I would call it the react phase, when the crisis strikes and a company is looking at dealing with the situation that's in front of them, and becomes more reactive to what is the action needed for the task at hand. The second phase is what I term it as the recovery phase, where we learn and we try to emerge stronger. And the last phase is what I would want to term it as the growth phase, where we prepare and shape up for the new normal. I mean, today we all accept this is the new normal, and we'll need to, shape up and prepare for that. So the priority, therefore, is to re-energize rather than react, and not just act, but act boldly. And I think that's going to be the new normal. We, like many of you, have been impacted with the pandemic, and we've been challenged both to respond and to rethink our workforce strategies in real time. We acknowledge that the recovery will have to be continuous, and we are not going to put a date and say, okay, on this particular date we are going to be done with COVID, and we will see that behind us. So we are now emerging from the react phase with our focus firmly on the next challenges, which is on recovery. And talking about that, I again feel that we may never return to the old way. I mean, I know I'm being a little too harsh out here, but in my opinion, we may return, but it's certainly not going to be the same way of working and doing business that we were used to pre-COVID. And we are now looking at the recovery in two dimensions. I mean, this is PTC as an organization. The first and foremost one is internal, which is more around employees. And to be brutally honest, our employees have demonstrated amazing resiliency in embracing the new reality. It was certainly not easy. I mean, we've been a sales organization. We continue to be a sales organization with most of us being out on the field meeting customers. Last 8 months, we've been sitting at home, staring in front of a screen and trying to do business. I mean, it's certainly not an easy wave for us to embrace, but our employees have done pretty well, and I should also accept that it has been very unsettling as well. We found that some of our employees embraced working from home very well, while a lot more felt it very uncomfortable or unproductive. Now, we've practically been trying to get a balance and to accommodate these expectations, and that's really helping us move forward. The second aspect is around the external factors. I mean, and primarily for us, the external is our customers and manufacturing industry at large, whom we serve with our products and solutions. Now, these companies, they need to make changes quickly and with great success. To me, Industry 4.0 is the convergence of disruptive digital technologies that could change the manufacturing industry and their imagination. And Industry 4.0 is not new. It was there pre-COVID. It was already transforming the manufacturing sector beyond imagination. Now it is becoming even more relevant, it's really taking it to the next level. Now, if you look at it, Industry 4.0 is characterized by 4 foundational technologies. The first one is around connectivity and data, which is primarily nothing but things like IoT. The second is around analytics, and I think JR talked about it in the BFSI industry as well. The third is the human-machine interaction, we're talking about things like augmented reality. We're talking about things like virtual reality. We're talking about robotics, RPA, etc. out here. And the last one is additive manufacturing. We're talking about 3D printing, which is going to revolutionize the manufacturing industry at large. So overall, if you look at it, we are seeing the role of Industry 4.2 as being very critical to fuel growth in the manufacturing sector post-COVID. Organizations today are adopting digital solutions and are likely to emerge far more stronger than the peers, their peers who are not. We also see differential adoption for solutions like digital twins, which requires the IT/OT to come together. While large enterprises with financial muscle will leapfrog on adoption, our effort is to try and help the SMEs and the smaller businesses who are in a more challenging liquidity position. I mean, I hear Jaya saying financial. I mean, if you know who to approach, you're probably going to get finances. I mean, which is music to a lot of people's ears. But the pandemic has caused also to a lot of companies to freeze their Industry 4.0 initiatives to preserve cash. But in my opinion, as more businesses emerge from this crisis, the case for digitization is going to get a lot stronger, and that to me is going to fuel the growth post COVID. This is my thought on what the manufacturing industry is likely to go through.
Okay, great, Sabya, your viewpoints.
Yeah. I echo what Kalyan and Jaya said, and partly I belong to the same industry to what Jaya belongs. We serve almost similar clients in the BFSI. See, I would start by saying that I want to be an optimist. Okay. Having said that, there are things that may happen, may not happen. So the phrase in my head is bounded optimism. Okay, so it gives all the leaders a chance to bring purpose to the chaos that we have been running so far. Having said that, what I'm trying to say is this is the time where the leaders can become a lot more human. Maybe a little bold statement, but I would make that statement. A lot more human. It's time to show vulnerability with optimism, and it's also the time where you over communicate. I think all this last 6-7 months, globally probably about a year now, communication has been essential to the employees, to your suppliers, vendors, partners, and your investors. So I think that's also a key element for any leader, or has been becoming more essential in the last couple of months. I think the 4 E's, which is very basic principle we would have learned in our management colleges as well, has seen prominence at this time, which is energy. The leader has to be very energetic. We would have heard, we would have seen some in our lifetime, but this is the time where it was actually a test of the leader, how energetic the leader was actually, because it was very important to bring the team and the partners together and collaborate. So without that was not possible. So I think the companies which had those kind of leaders stayed good and are doing good. Second was empathy. Anyone who has ensured the employees don't sink, their partners don't sink, and their investors don't sink, are doing fine. I think it is tough time, but they're still doing fine. So I think it's very important to keep that in mind. Then is engagement, partly very, very critical, because even without face-to-face meetings, as Peter was saying, virtually also you were supposed to engage with your employees and your clients and your different suppliers and partners. If anybody has engaged a little less, I'm sure they would be feeling that pinch. So it was very important that you engage as well. And finally, the equilibrium. Because what pandemic has taught us was to stay calm, composed, and close to the nature and your family. I think we were all staying away from all of those elements. It has definitely brought back all of us closer to all the elements that I mentioned. So I think these are very important from a leadership capabilities and abilities that should have been demonstrated in any kind of crisis, in a normal scenario also, but in the crisis, this would have got demonstrated more so. I would say from a brand perspective, Perfios has actually, I would say we were kind of prepared. When this started coming in October, November, when we started early from China, since we are in the digital space, so obviously as an industry, we definitely gained because it was in the BFSI vertical, digital was the buzzword. On certain verticals, digital has taken off, but certain verticals, they were still kind of contemplating how do we go about it, whether the market is ready, whether the people are ready, all of it. But I think pandemic just ensured that everybody goes digital. There is no other way because your touch and feel experience has gone away. So you can't go and meet the customer and open an account. You can't go and give a loan physically. All this was supposed to be served digitally. So definitely from an industry perspective, we saw some amount of benefit there. Though the demand lacked, the supply was ample, I would say that. From a Perfios standpoint, as I was saying, from October, November, we were kind of ready. So we could transition from a co-location kind of concept immediately to a virtual concept. Our BCPs were almost put in place in no time. So none of our clients, we serve roughly about 280 odd clients across the globe, about 17 odd countries. None of them got impacted even for an hour. It was smooth transition without any impact. So I think that was a really big achievement. It was always in IT or any kind of industry, you would always hear about BCP. In a lifetime, you would get a chance to actually execute a BCP, and we had to actually. So, and you can understand a bank coming crashing down any of their system, it create a hell lot of a chaos. So we had to take all those into account, and it was very, very smooth. So I think what helped there was from, again, coming back on that one quality of a leader, which is our top management, telling the truth. So in October, November, we told the truth to all our employees and our clients that there is definitely something big hitting us. We better prepare ourselves. So I think as much as you can tell the truth and be prepared, probably your employees will also support you in the tough times, and which we have seen. We also felt that setting the priorities right was very critical. And during the last quarter, though most of the companies, the last quarter, Q4 is very, very critical. So apart from preparing for the last year Q4 ending financial results, we were preparing how can we make this transition smooth for all our clients with zero impact kind of thing. So the Q4, from our engineering perspective, we spent a lot of effort to build all those capabilities, which ensures that the clients doesn't get any kind of impact. So I think from a brand, we showed our resilience to any kind of this kind of crisis. We did not underestimate the crisis, neither we overestimated the crisis. We knew that obviously we bifurcated the crisis. I would not repeat in the interest of time what Sridhar mentioned, into 3 phases: the shutdown phase, the recovery, and the new normal. I would say the shutdown and the recovery is almost over. It's the new normal the last 2-3 months, we are seeing the complete new normal, both in terms of client perspective as well as our own employees' perspective. So it's a new normal for us, and we were well prepared for that. I'll leave it at that, and probably we'll get back.
Okay, great, Sabya. Sarita, can we have your viewpoint? Can't hear you.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I just lost the track. What was the question again?
No, your viewpoint now on the entire discussion.
The thing is, as far as the education is concerned, we were actually absolutely not prepared for this. It happened overnight. And, initially when the lockdown came, we thought it is just for 15 days and then probably we can, go on and probably the physical schools will start. Actually, I don't know, nobody was prepared. None of us, my parents, students, us, none of the educators, none of the schools were prepared. And since our schools are in the interiors, the teachers are not trained as far as the online education is concerned. So everything happened overnight. The tables were turned. And then we realized this is going to go on and on and on. And then suddenly we had to pull in a team together and train the teachers overnight. It was like overnight, very fast. And then it was becoming so difficult. Were not able to come, sitting at home and teaching. So obviously the quality of education has been definitely affected. But suddenly there was a hype created in the market, that in the education sector, the edutech or the AI, is like dominating the market, which I feel was a hype. Because let me tell you, even before the crisis, there was already a very, very high growth and adoption in the education technology. If you look at the global edtech investments, they were reaching up to $18.66 billion in 2019.
That's right.
And the overall market for online education, which was projected, was $350 billion by 2025. Okay, so nothing was new. Online education or artificial intelligence or apps and everything was, we were already implementing. There were robotics in our schools. There was a lot of online education happening already, but it was not completely online. So what happened with us, like we had to go step by step, slowly. So because of that, the quality of education was definitely affected, and then nobody can replace the physical classrooms. Right, all of your kids might be taking online classes right now. Maybe they're taking online classes for schools or colleges. So initially, even the students thought that probably it is just a phase, and it will pass. But now the frustration levels of the students have gone so high. The lack of interest, anxiety, depressions, loneliness. Because what happens initially, the parents were with the students. Then the work started, offices started, business started, then we all started going out. So at least first parents were now the students were absolutely alone, lonely at home. So this was actually taking a toll, on the students' psychological and emotional health. And I would like to ask all the panelists that how are these children doing and going through. And the frustration is actually coming on the parents, and the parents are becoming punching bags. And I'm sure everybody is going through that. So online education.
Yeah, sorry to disturb you, just to break. Of course, this pandemic got people together, families together. However, data says a little different story. Data says, like what Sarita is saying, the frustration, domestic violence cases in India have gone up.
Yes.
Violence cases in India have gone up. Depression cases in India have gone up. So are we saying too much of bonding with the family is also not right? And people need to have...
a hard-hitting fact. This is a hard-hitting fact. I will tell you the hard-hitting fact. As far as every member of the family was going out, everything was fine in harmony. The moment everybody was sitting at home, the reality came off. The reality, it's just not about the relationships between a husband and wife, but the relationships between the parents and children and everybody, even the servants and the maids. So everything was falling apart because everybody lost a sense of purpose. Everybody had a sense of purpose, getting in the morning, getting ready, going somewhere, achieving something, doing something in life. That was totally lost, and everybody became each other's punching bag. So for schools, for education sector, online is just an last option, and we don't have anything, so we go online, but it's not going to sustain.
Education industry very badly these days. There is no doubt on that. There are some industries which are doing well, like SME is a backbone of a country. SME as an industry, I'll come to Dr. Jaya and Sabya on this a little bit later, but SME as an industry, as a total vertical, has virtually collapsed during this lockdown and the pandemic situation. And it is not too good for the country. It is leading to the economic crisis. We will come to that. Just finish your viewpoint. We'll go to Alok and then come back to you once again.
So my point is like everything is fine as far it's for a certain period, but now the frustration levels are going very high. The student, they want to come on the campus, they want to have a social, emotional touch, which was always there with the schools, which is impossible with a machine, with this what we are sitting in front of each other. Like if this event was live, I would have been sitting and I would have been talking about life and other things also, and we would have been more comfortable with each other probably. But now there is a barrier, right? There is a barrier of this technology, I would call, or AI. So that barrier doesn't work with the students because they are small. They need emotional touch. We are social animals, they need to socialize. So this won't survive in the education sector, and this something has to be done immediately so that the schools start at least once a week or something, wherein the children go and refresh their minds.
Going on, by the way, huge cases are rising in Bombay and Delhi. Delhi definitely is going to go for a market lockdown. If company lockdown happens once again, both in Delhi and Bombay, but definitely containment zone market lockdowns are again restarting. And let's say, for example, Delhi, the national capital, is a very trader-based city. Like Bangalore is IT, Bombay is finance. Delhi is very trader-based. If the system collapses, if that happens once again, there is anxiety. Of course, there are companies which are doing extremely well. There are certain industries which are doing fantastically well. Then there are winning brands who planned everything. And then, of course, there are this huge number of companies have shut down. The SME industry is in real doldrums, to say. So we'll come to those questions. We'll come to Alok for your viewpoint, and then I'll put some questions on each one of you. Yeah, Alok.
Yeah, hi to everybody. I'll take my madam, because you see that I am totally from a different industry. It's a microfinance industry. As you know, we are dealing with a very small, vulnerable section of the, you can tell, poorest of the poor section of the India.
Yeah.
And as you know that,
in this.
So if I go and speak, this 10 minutes, 15 minutes is nothing actually, because this is a very big market. There's 80. If you think about the market, it is nearly for 80 crores. Out of 140 crores Indian, is 80 crores is our market. It is not small. It is very, very big. And if you look at the industry, and always we used to talk about the industry that is the resilience industry, because these people are always vulnerable and they are having a back in the wall. So whatever in this lockdown and COVID era, I will talk about something about industry, then I will come about that leadership and brand. Brand actually is different thing to industry. If you look at the industry as a whole, it was always resilience, because in 2010 we had a big epic story in Andhra Pradesh. One big crisis was there because of the SKS microfinance issue was there, and all government and everybody has gone everywhere, and they told that in parliament everywhere it was there that you people are charging onerous interest and you are using this so many clauses and also using muscle power and to the vulnerable section. So a lot of issues was there. Then government came, and in 2011, May 2011, some sort of regulation came with RBI guidance and all this issue. So we have seen the resilience, and the market was only 20,000 crore. Then you look at 2016, another story of demonetization. That time also people suffered like anything. But every time when the resilience is, when the industry bounced back like anything, this simply from 20,000 crore in 2016 it is 2 lakh crore, and now it is 8 lakh crore business. And market is hugely open, and it is, as you know, that we are providing only 20,000 to 30,000 rupees only a poor borrower. They are asking only 20,000, 30,000. You people think that smartphone cost is 27,000 or 28,000, but they are borrowing us from 20,000 to 30,000 rupees. And what they are doing with this money, they are repaying back with 12 installment or 24 installment in a year or 2 years product. So 20,000, you just imagine how much money is there. So maid servant and all this, whatever is there, vegetable vendor, 80 crore people are there with us. So here actually, if you look at a lot of crisis, because they don't have means, their local train is not there. And as you told, Mr. Abhimanyu was talking about SME and other things, is all interlinked, because all people are working in a because there is a supply chain issue is there in everywhere. So because the local train or containment zone, whatever you tell, they are most sufferer of this country. And when they are sufferer means we are also sufferer. So our repayment rate and all these things has gone haywire, and we are always hoping back that the government will support us, and government is supporting us through the special liquidity facility and all these things. But the industry as a whole, another issue is that the brand, actually another point is the brand. If you talk about brand, slowly after 2016, the brand already gone over. There is no brand actually. Microfinance itself is a brand. Whether it is a Janakalyan or whether it is a Kramin Kuta or whether it is any other company, slowly the brand, government actually wanted that the brand should not be there in NBFC sector. Recently, the circular already came that NBFC should be converted into a small finance bank or something like this. So my idea when I started this company, Jagaran, another microfinance company, my idea was to start a small bank. That is my idea. That's why I left Axis Bank and started their bank. But somehow with the investor and all these things could not manage, and that's why the company is running well. But I have to leave, and I started Janakalan. So my aim is to open another bank also. That is my aim actually. So brand, actually what I am looking, it became a commodity product, and if my collection rate is 70% or something like this, the same thing also from the Annapurna or Bandhan or somebody else also there. Bandhan is a big player, they became bank as a microfinance industry. So slowly the brand equity already gone. So brand equity has not, and madam actually told that two big thing actually, it is related to me, the willingness to pay and ability to pay. I jot down so many things about ma'am actually, ma'am, Jaya madam has told so many good things, that the ability to pay and willingness to pay, we are now facing that willingness to pay, because some unlock is there, and we saw that everything is okay, but people are not willing to pay because they are thinking that second wave of lockdown will be there, and how they will survive. So that's keeping the money with them, and they are not paying us. And if you look at the leadership, so brand, I told you that, and if you look at the leadership is always about the management of the employee. In our business, it is the employee majorly. Customer, there are two types of customers that madam told. That is the thing is there, and they are more or less after the last 10 years actually in this industry, seen a lot of things are there. Credit bureau, check is there, then artificial intelligence, digital collection. Now we are going for digital onboarding also. So many things are there. So leadership is that how we'll manage the company and how to stay afloat. And Sabashachi also told something that should be very human and brutal. I don't know how you can be brutal and how you can be human. Both you can. I don't know how it can be. So at the same time, we are facing this problem for last 9 months to 10 months. We have not no retrenchment. Even salary increase was also there. So we are managing somehow to our cost and all these things, because it's very good, very bad time. And RBI also giving some relaxation, ALM mismatch. Lot of issues are there. We are facing a lot of problems. And equity market also, as you know, that the Indian market has most of the people are going to digital, that's e-commerce and all these things. So are going that in that line actually. Those who are doing good, mainly e-commerce majorly. Not anybody else is doing good, mostly. And the digital part, some fintech people are there. So digital collection, see that we have tied up with the PayU and we are doing the digital collection. But see that for 880 rupees premium, that collection amount is suppose 880 rupees. For that I have to pay 4 rupees 15 paisa charges. They will deduct from the customer and 7 rupees 12 paisa they will cut from us. So for 880 rupees we are paying 11 rupees. So that is the thing actually we used to talk for long, since 2008 actually. If you look at that, in this MFI industry was going for this digital collection. They are going on trying. The cost actually somebody should be subsidized, either government or something else. Otherwise, this digital collection will not see that government. What the government wanted, that digital collection should be there. It is only related to only 10 crore people of India, not another 80 crore whom we are dealing. They are already excluded. We are people to financial inclusion. Actually, still 80 crore people are excluded actually out of financial inclusion. So I can talk a lot of things about microfinance and all these things, but still, I will just here.
So
and any
I have
question,
a question for Sabya, and you can answer this. Okay? Sabya, being an absolute optimist, being a head of business development, you need to be optimistic and positive all the time to drive revenues. You're an analytics person, primarily with analysis. Now, there is this tough time, there is no doubt on that. Okay. Point is, how do you revive the SME industry in India, since both of you deal a
I think we lost Abhimanyu.
We did, but I think just staying on for a couple of minutes, maybe he'll come back.
Well, it was 3 to 4, so only 3 minutes left. He might be lost.
Yeah,
Is
to be back in probably 10 seconds. I think is some issue with the Wi-Fi, and that's why sometimes it gets difficult to do all these things digitally. So he's going to be back in about 10 seconds.
So the technical glitches.
Absolutely.
So there, Madam Sarita actually told us that this technical things, an online class, that will not help the people. So children
imagine the
need
kind of frustration the students going every day.
that. To be another thing is that when they are in the interior of the quality, then they might have another issue of this Wi-Fi and all these things. They don't have Wi-Fi, they have an internet connection, and that also not working properly.
No, my daughter, we are in Mumbai and we have Airtel connection and it goes on and off several times. So whether you're in the interior, doesn't work. It's India. And you have to accept that fact.
That's why we have a hybrid technology actually. We are using loan origination system, LOS. Mostly we are using technology for loan origination and collection, everything. It is a hybrid model. So when you are off, then also it will work. When it will come, then it automatically upgrade the server.
So Sarita, while we are waiting, I mean, how are you seeing the education system changing? I mean, is this going to be some kind of a new normal where you're going to have online classes for probably a couple of days of the week, and then have classes, in person maybe for the rest of the time? Or do you see anything changing there post COVID as well?
No, I think they are craving, the students are craving to come back to school because it's just not about the online classes. There are so many physical, emotional, and mental activities. Then, this like football matches, and then we have martial cadet trainings, and we have swimming sessions, horse riding, archery, shooting. So basically it's just not about the children come to the school, they might hate their maths or science teacher, but then there is something which they might like there is Christmas carnivals, December fest, and all that. So how are you going to do all this online? So as far as I know, it's just not about my school in the interior, but my daughter is in an international school in Mumbai. It's Oberoi International, and then she's on laptop from morning 8 o'clock till 3, in between some eating breaks and all. And by the time she come out of the room, she has this big dark circles and she's so gloomy. And then all these kids are facing vitamin D deficiency, then body aches, the immune systems are going down, the appetite has gone down. So it's not going to work. It's definitely not going to work because schooling is like overall development. It's a holistic
Yep.
development, and also parents to be on their own. Like, whether you have a 2-year-old or a 16-year-old, if he's getting bored, he's feeling lonely, he's going to use you as a punching bag. So you're handling your business, you're handling your work online, and then at the back of the mind, you're also worried about your child being alone at home. So it's like we all are in this together.
Yep.
I think
And
psychologically, schools were built not for education, but to give parents a chance to be on their own and have their own time, and even give children a time to get away from the parents to become independent, mentally and emotionally. So that aspect has not taken into consideration. And you tell me whether I think Sarmad is back.
Yeah. So I was listening
We
to
are
all of
having
you.
our
It
own
was good.
discussion, Sarmad.
Yeah, that's perfectly all right. And Abhimanyu is having some sort of a technical glitch. So I thought probably I'll quickly, get in the discussion and probably ask all of you to give closing remarks, maybe, a 30-seconder from all of you about, what should be the winning strategies in this, in these difficult times. Probably, 2 to 3 winning strategies for your own organizations, and of course for your specific industry. A 30-seconder from all of you. Probably we'll get started with Ms. Jaya, if you can give us a 30-seconder closing remarks.
Stay innovative, stay connected, and stay empathetic. Those would be my 3 cents for winning strategy for COVID. Not just COVID, for a successful business, especially in the post-COVID times.
Perfect. Yeah, I think these are absolutely relevant in this, in this time we're facing. And we hope to get through all of this soon and get back to our normal lives. Mr. Kalyan, you next.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jaya talked about it from an individualistic standpoint. To me, from an organizational standpoint, it's about reflecting, it's about recommitting, and it's about re-engaging. So I think if you can do that, you're gonna stay relevant and stay successful.
Absolutely. Moving to Mr. Sabyasachi, if you can give closing remarks on this topic.
Yeah, I think we all have learned to be more adaptable, definitely. So I think it's the need of the hour. The higher the adaptability and resilience, probably will able to manage the volatility, the uncertainty, the complexity, the ambiguity. All these are very common words now that will remain and stay with us for a while. So the more adaptable we become, the more collaborative approach that we take, I think we'll be able to sustain all of this. So it's very, very important. And one important thing which I would leave everyone with is we need to all learn to give up control. I think in the situation of crisis, it is obvious and seldom that the solutions will come from a top-down approach. It can come from anywhere. And the delegating it swiftly and getting out a solution from anyone who has it and who has the creativity to think of an innovative solution, I think is the need of the hour. So if you don't give up control or you don't empower your people, you'll lose it. I think that's very, very critical. That's the thought I'll leave with.
Sorry, I lost my connection, but I lost a little track. So, Sabya, you spoke from where I left.
No, actually.
So I was asking them about their closing remarks.
No, Abhimanyu, I think it was a quick 30-second closing remarks on what will be a winning strategy.
Absolutely, for all of
So, have all of you.
So moving to Ms. Sarita.
Okay.
Moving to Ms. Sarita, and then we'll have the final words from Mr. Alok, and then Abhimanyu can give a closing remarks as a moderator, and then we'll end the discussion. Ms. Sarita,
Madam also not too.
Is it? Can I talk?
Yeah, please go ahead, Sarita.
Yeah. I feel as far as the corporates are concerned, I feel disintegration of the organizations as a single monolithic structures to distributed polyolithic, and building market creating innovations, creating local ecosystems for the geographic equilibrium, and redefining business as cluster of people to cluster of roles or jobs, and capitalist systems to creative capitalism. But as far as schools are concerned, education is concerned, I think post-COVID the schools should redesign the entire system to focus on nurturing the whole child, balancing cognitive with socio-emotional skills development. Crisis management is the most important thing, because I don't think our students were prepared for this crisis. So I think the new system should be crisis management, emotional and mental health, which wasn't taken care because of online learning. Also ensuring that all children have access to the conditions and resources that enhance learning and development. And we have to make up for the loss of all their emotional well-being, which has happened during the lockdown. So I think this is what education sector should do.
Okay, Jaya, your closing remarks.
I think Jaya's done. You need to go to Alok.
Okay, Alok.
And,
Yes.
give the final remarks after Alok is done.
Okay, fine.
Okay. Yeah, but in my sense, this post-COVID area, as I will talk about the infra industry only, we have to empathize with the customer also, as because they are facing a lot of crisis. We have to manage our investor and stakeholder majorly for that, especially bankers, lenders, and all these things. We have to be there. And of course, we are with the customer, with our HR and all these things has to be strengthened. Proper technology and strategy has to be set. And as you think that when we are doing this business, it is a very people's incentive business, because if you see that only for some 1,70,000, 1,80,000 customer, and we are having 458 employees across geography, managing them is very difficult, and also very low paid employees also. So managing them is very difficult time. And as Abhimanyu Sabyasachi actually told sometime, that is the engagement. Actually, the employee engagement is the major essence now. We are going on doing the employee engagement initiative. When my chairman and other people was HR head and all this was not that much inclusive was there. But now everybody, every day we are engaging with them, with the employees and the customer. We have set up a war room also for that. We are making phone call the customer also, and we are giving them assurance that we are with you. The good time will come, and always we will be with you. So that is the essence actually. Now we have to be very nimble and humble also, and we have to survive. So that is the message actually we have to give to all employees also.
Okay, thank you very much, all of you, for your great viewpoints. We all agree. We all come to the same page that today, in today's tough times, a winning company is the one who will get their leadership right. That is, constantly engage their employees with themselves, take them to their side with right strategies, right product development, right development of overall as a human being, and have tremendous empathy for the business and, of course, for their personal growth. Two, we all agree that in today's, this entire thing, innovation becomes an extremely strong point. Whatever business you may be in, if you do not innovate, you're bound to go back on time. Generating trust, as Sabir said, Kalyan said, Dr. Jaya said, all of you nearly said that generating trust with your consumers today probably is the most important task. Education industries may be a little different, we will have to wait for things to get a little better. But even in education industry, how you place trust with your students, how you place trust with the parents, how you develop new models today become absolutely the key strategies. Today things have changed. Bigger companies worldwide have deployed manpower overnight to various different things which suits their role, which suits the company's need. They have generated trust with their consumers with new product development, new ideas, and of course taking in consideration all government policies. I personally feel that government policies really need to be taken into consideration for any economy to thrive, for any company to go ahead properly. And it's far better than rather sitting and cribbing on policies and various other factors. We as leaders, we as companies today generate trust in our own target market, in our own employees, in becoming better human beings, and in becoming better managers. I think these are the only key strategies that will work for anybody post-COVID era. Sitting and cribbing would not help. We have to be proactive. We have to generate trust in our consumers, generate trust in our employees, and most importantly, all shareholders of the company. We thank you all for being a part of this great panel discussion. Thank you very much for being a part of Ideas Fest 2020. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I think you can all exit.